Odyssey now has hundreds of new exclusive music stations for you to discover your new summer soundtrack.
Get moving with worthy workouts for a cardio sesh fueled by today's top artists.
Hanging with your crew? Throw it back with Picnic Party for old school jams for your cookout.
Or sail away with Odyssey's new yacht rock station, Jugger Yacht.
There are hundreds of new exclusive stations to check out today.
For summer barbecues,
road trips,
or relaxing poolside.
For every mood, every interest, every passion. By Odyssey. Brought to you in part by Macy's and Geico.
G&D welcoming you back on The Fan. Thank you for the update, Craig. I actually think by packaging Yan Gomes, who's had a terrific season throwing runners out and hitting behind the plate, with Josh Harrison, who's got an 800 OPS and has had a very strong season.
He's been good.
He can move around second. He can play third. He can play left field. They might get a decent player or two back.
A couple winning baseball players, honestly, that could help a team.
Absolutely.
And so Oakland's in the thick of it, so you like their system consistently. Maybe something good's coming back.
I love combining those two guys, by the way, though, in the same package, because I think you probably get 2-3 players and maybe even a pretty good prospect back for those two guys. So the fire sale looks complete at this point. Brad Hand to Toronto, Trey Turner and Max Scherzer to L.A., Kyle Schwarber to Boston, Dan Hudson to San Diego, and Harrison and Gomes to Oakland. Wow, has this been a crazy day and a half. Meanwhile, Craig Kimbrell's a White Sox, Javier Baez is a Met.
So annoyed about that.
Up to date on everything going on around Major League Baseball. But right now, let's go to our BetQL guest hotline. Bet smarter to beat the books. Download the BetQL app today and visit BetQL.com. JJ Cooper's a friend of ours we check in with whenever we need to talk prospects in baseball, and today is a good day to do that. JJ, thanks for the time. How are you doing?
Shaking my head in a good way, because this has been a crazy, crazy deadline. I want to know, Grant, where have you been dealt to? I mean, the teardown is almost complete.
That's right.
You know, Toronto, Boston, San Fran hadn't done it a lot yet, so you had the San Fran?
I'm headed to Tampa, actually. The Rays had been quiet, and they decided that they needed a portly, bearded radio host.
Yeah,
so
they wanted some bargains, so we're headed down there.
I'm headed to the Trop.
And that is, yeah. So, you know, a nice, astute Rays trade is what you're saying.
Exactly.
So, okay.
What did you, let's start with the Scherzer-Turner return. What did you make of the haul back for Washington?
Well, right now, we have the top 100 prospects list at Baseball America. We updated it Monday, thinking that probably a good time to update it, considering everything that's going to happen this week. And so far, there have been 3 top 100 prospects who have been traded, in this month, and 2 of them are in that deal. So the thing I'd start with is that, as they should have, but the Nationals got the largest haul that we've seen in any of these trades. Now, they should have, because they also traded, I would say, the most significant talent that went in any of these trades. But it's hard not to like Keibert Ruiz. The Dodgers are a team to envy, because they can trade Keibert Ruiz, who we have ranked as the 16th best prospect in all of baseball, and they can trade that catcher who's in AAA, who's one of the younger catchers in AAA, having a great year, just had a stretch where basically it seemed like every time he looked at the ball, he hit a homer. But they can do that because they have Will Smith in the big leagues, they have Austin Barnes in the big leagues, and then they have another young catcher who's on our top 100 prospects list, Diego Cartaya, coming up behind him. But he immediately joins Cade Cavalli as he's the number 1 prospect now in the national system, and he joins Cade Cavalli as one of the top 2. And now you say, okay, well, you have Josiah Gray, who just made his major league debut for the Dodgers soon before this, and that now gives you those 3 plus Brady House means that what was an incredibly thin Nationals farm system just got a lot deeper, and really, more importantly, got a lot more impact talent at the top of it.
So, JJ, what would you say to Nats fans who, when they hear prospect, their eyes glaze over? Because we remember when Victor Robles was untouchable, and now he's 25, hitting 200, making base running errors like he's 19 again, and he's losing playing time to Andrew Stevenson, a 4A Freddie. What would you say to Nats fans who are kind of not placated by the idea of prospects?
I understand, because let me tell you, I don't know where, because this is right now, the Nationals are clearly going into either a short-term or a long-term rebuild. Because if you look at, and you said right now, what does this team have to compete with in 22 and 23? It's those couple of guys we just talked about who are prospects, and it's Juan Soto, who's one of the best players in all of baseball. But we don't know about Steven Strasburg. We don't know if Patrick Corbin's ever going to return. That's a lot of money that's going to Strasburg and Corbin, and there's a lot of uncertainty there. And you go beyond that, there are not cornerstone players left on this team. Well, then you say, okay, well, what does the farm system look like? There's almost nothing in the farm system before these trades who's going to be able to make a significant impact anytime soon. This was one of the we were debating. We haven't updated our farm system rings, but this was before all these trades. This was either the 29th or 30th farm system in baseball. So that's not a farm system that's going to fix for a short-term rebuild. That makes for a much more of a long-term rebuild. And I don't see the Nationals as a team that really wants to do a long-term rebuild. So the other answer is okay, so you're going to spend a lot of money. And that, again, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good way to try to improve things. But is the free agent market, is the trade market going to allow them to do that where with a goal of 22 or 23, or is it going to be more of a 24 or 25 before this team can return to prominence?
JJ Cooper, Baseball America with us. And you leave it to my question. Which do you think it is? Do you think this is a short-term thing where they'll try to reload and get good, maybe 22 or 23? Or do you see it as more of a long-term thing, kind of waiting out Strasburg and Corbin's contracts?
I don't want to act like I'm all-knowing here because I'm not. And I tried to figure out quickly before this, because I'm obviously kind of buried in trade deadline, but try to figure out, okay, so how do you get a 22 roster for this team that could compete in what's a very competitive NL East? And I kind of threw up my arms at some point. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's really hard. If this was a team that was planning to compete for 22, the thing I'd start with is, well, I'd love to have a guy like Trey Turner. And that's who they just traded away. So I say 22 is probably not where you're looking for. Even 23 becomes very difficult. Teams can turn around relatively quickly if you're willing to spend money. But this team doesn't have, again, you guys follow this team live closer than I do on a daily basis. Beyond Soto, beyond the two big money pitchers who now have concerns, who else is left who's kind of, you mentioned Robles, and you're hoping that a Luis Garcia or a Victor Robles or a Carter Kieboom, someone kind of steps up. But who's the cornerstones of this team for, if they're going to succeed in 22 or 23?
Yeah, Soto, I would say Bell, who's had a really good season since the first month they would build around. And then
he's only got one more year, right?
Right,
Bell's
you're
one,
saying
yeah.
for
They have to
22.
re-sign him.
Yeah, I'm talking about 22. And then I would think they have to be aggressive and spend this offseason and hope that Strasburg and Corbin return if they're going to be in the mix 80-plus wins next year, or else you're right. It's a massive step backward, which I think is very, very possible, and based on the system might be inevitable. JJ Cooper of Baseball America with us. All right, I want to tap into your expertise here, and JJ, we got a couple of minutes left with you, so I want to do what you do well, which is to get into these players. You know them so much better than anybody I could have called. So let's go rapid fire here, if you will, kind of like a few sentences on each guy. Most of our listeners, these are just names they've never heard of. Keibert Ruiz.
One of the best catching prospects in all of baseball, has been one of the youngest players at every level he's played at throughout his minor league career, close to big league ready.
Josiah Gray.
Should be a key part of the Nationals rotation, maybe for the rest of the year. Definitely for 22. Converted shortstop who didn't start pitching full-time until his junior year at Division II Lemoyne College in New York.
A Mason Thompson, who they got from San Diego for Hudson, who's got some injury history, but seems like a big arm.
Probably a reliever, probably a guy who joins the Nationals bullpen. Actually, with all these trades, probably sits in the Nationals bullpen for the rest of the season. Probably just a useful arm in a pen. Not a closer, maybe not a setup man, but a useful arm in the pen.
Aldo Ramirez, who they got from Boston in the Schwarber deal.
Aldo is kind of, he's younger. He's going to be our number 13 prospect for the Red Sox. Maybe he's a starter. Maybe he's a reliever. It's a good fastball. He has 3 pitches. Nothing's outstanding, but it's all pretty good.
Gerardo Carrillo, who came over as the third guy in that Scherzer-Turner deal with the Dodgers.
Always nice to get a depth guy for the Dodgers because they have a great farm system. Big arm, can touch 99, make it to 100 someday, has a slider, a swing and miss. Again, probably a reliever, but one who could be a setup man or even a closer someday.
And then as far as the rest of the group, the Riley Adams catcher who came over for Hand, or Donovan Casey, who wasn't listed in the Dodgers system, I mean, do you feel like there's a chance of another impact major leaguer or even a guy who's a fixture at the big league level for any extended period of time there?
This is the difference between the Dodgers system and the Nationals. The Dodgers system, Donovan Casey is not a top 30 prospect. He joins the Nationals. I promise you he'll be a top 30. We just got to figure out where he slots in, but he might be in the teens. So that's the difference between the two farm systems. Casey has a massive arm. It gives him a fallback option if he's not a right fielder, maybe even converts to pitching someday. Riley Adams is a guy who, backup catcher maybe one day. If you're trading away Yan Gomes, Riley Adams gives you someone who you're going to need catchers, and he gives you someone who I'm not saying he's better because he kind of fits in that same mold as the Tres Barreras and the guys they've had, probably, but maybe even a little better than that. Maybe a guy who catchers develop late. Maybe he ends up being a guy who can get 300 plate appearances a year in the big leagues.
JJ, is there anybody you would have swapped out and asked for differently if you were Mike Rizzo and the Nats from the hauls that they got?
I mean, that's almost one of those impossible because you don't know what teams are. Again, you look at the biggest trade they made and you say, no one else has gotten better than that. You can look at the Blue Jays traded for Jose Barrios, which I don't think Barrios is as much as a year and a half of Barrios. I don't think that's as much as giving Scherzer, Evo salary, and Trey Turner. But if I look at those two trades, I'd rather have the Nationals haul than what the Twins got. So it's hard to criticize that. On a lot of these other trades, you're getting lottery tickets or guys who can be contributors. The reality of it is most of the guys that we just rattled off, you look at these trade deadline deals year after year, the number of guys who go on to make impacts in the prospects traded, it usually is 20-25% of the guys at most. And if I'm putting odds on it, it's the Keibert Ruizes of the world who have a way bigger chance to make an impact than the Riley Adams.
JJ, really good information. That's why we came to you. Thank you. We know you're busy. About 46 minutes till the deadline. Go get them.
Here we go.
JJ Cooper of Baseball America with us on Grant and Danny. We are 46 minutes out. Couple of notes real quick, and I want to hit the phones with you guys right now at 800-636-1067 for those of you that have been waiting. Kimbrel to the White Sox. Chicago, best team in its division by far.
They're fun.
Going to make the playoffs. They have an unbelievably impressive young roster that they put together through years of basically doing what the Nats did yesterday.
Yeah.
Trading major leaguers for 22, 23, 21-year-old minor leaguers, and also drafting really well. And now they're awesome at the big league level, and they might be one of the best teams in baseball, and they just added the highest impact reliever that anyone's going to acquire at the deadline. So it's a big, big deal for them trying to win the American League. That is a championship-type move. Javier Baez to the Mets. So we're going to have to, at least for the remainder of this year, see him in the division.
I'm super annoyed about that.
I'm pre-annoyed about that as well. I should feel more than I am, though. Like, if 2 weeks ago, when the Washington Nationals are trying to catch the Mets, and I think they've got a chance and they're not sellers yet, if the Mets traded for Javier Baez, that's a throw something in my house and break it. That's a scream of profanity at the top of my lungs kind of moment.
Your wife does the earmuffs for the kids, takes them for a long walk.
This happening today, I didn't even feel anything.
I still did.
I felt nothing. I was like, oh, the Mets got a player. I felt nothing because what does it matter? Between now and the end of the year, I'm watching for Soto, and I want to see some young guys do some cool things. But like if the Nats lose all their games, that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, that's why we're in it. But I still don't. I can't have them succeed. I can't have them do well. Win your terrible division. That's fine. Don't you go getting good enough to make some noise in the postseason when DeGrom comes back healthy. I can't have that. That's how I felt when they got Cespedes that first time. It's like then they'll convince him to resign, maybe a position change or something. I don't like it. I'm not happy about it.
Guys, have we seen anything yet on what
Oakland saw?
Oakland is giving up for Gomes and Harrison?
I'm frantically refreshing the old Twitter feed. I haven't seen anything yet.
I'm excited to find that out. Oh, wow. You know who's going back? Nobody cares about this but me. That was an unnecessarily excited, oh, wow.
Oh!
Nobody. This will interest nobody. I'm going to pre-tell you that. So the Cubs and the Mets deal for Javier Baez.
Yeah.
The Mets are sending to the Cubs Pete Crow Armstrong, who's a name that nobody knows or cares about. He's an outfielder. He's the number 5 prospect in the Mets system. But what's funny is, and this is why I love Pete Crow Armstrong.
Okay.
On Mother's Day, I did an interview with him and his mom. His mom is the mom from Little Big League.
This is your thing. Yeah, you're excited about it. Yeah.
The redheaded mom from Little Big League.
So that's why we got the
right. That was my excited. Oh wow, he's getting traded.
I made me happy. I'm back. Now I'm angry that I was happy for a second.
All right, let's get to the phones. Andre's in Manassas. Dre, what's up, man? Thanks for waiting. How you doing?
I am doing very well, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Listen, you know me. I don't call in for baseball a whole lot, mainly football, skins, and so forth. But I did feel like I had to talk today because I'm frustrated. At this point in time, I don't know who is the most frustrating front office in professional sports in D.C. among all the big 4 teams.
That's a fun
this is
question.
Absolutely frustrating. It's frustrating, and who do I blame? I don't know. I do know this. It's funny that you guys were playing that song a couple of segments ago when you came back. It's been a long time. I do know if Strasburg were to be traded, you guys won't be playing that song. At least it wouldn't bother me. I would have been happy to see him go. I do feel as if the team 3 years ago, 4 years ago, bet on the wrong horse by signing Strauss and not signing Rendon. It is absolutely frustrating to see what's going on, and perhaps you can tell me, you guys are the baseball insiders, what is it that the Dodgers believe in? What is it that the Dodgers, hold, as a paradigm that allows them to sign all these players, spend all this big money, and have this supposedly tremendous farm system?
You know what?
And
that is a great,
wonderful question.
I think we should talk about that next. And I'm going to write this down so that we do it. But I want to talk about, because everyone just says, well, the Nats have won so much for so many years, and they've always been sellers, so they have a bad system. It's like, well, we still reference like the Giolito trade, which was 5 years ago. We still reference some of these deals. It's been years.
Yeah, Luzardo for Doolittle and Madsen.
Right.
And
what year? That was 5 years ago?
17 or 18,
maybe?
yeah.
Like, to me, there's so much more to it than that. So I do want to get into that. We'll do that when we have a little more time. Next segment. You guys can hit us up. 800-636-1067 is the number. 800-636-1067. Now, I do not believe or endorse what I'm about to say to be the case. But it is sometimes our jobs to provoke some thought. And so as we keep bringing up, like, oh, they should have signed this guy or that guy, I wonder if the learners could point to, right now this second, would you redo the Bryce thing? No, I don't think you would. They won a World Series since, and he's been good with the Phillies, but he hasn't been so good that 16 homers and a 297 average right now and a 945 OPS. I don't think you would redo to have brought him back at the contract, 330 that the Phillies signed him to. Fair?
For 13 years? Yeah, no, thank you.
Now, I would redo still to this second the Anthony Rendon chance that you had and swap out Strauss and swap in Rendon. But they could point to the fact that this year he's hitting 240 with 6 home runs and he's been hurt all year. And since he got to the Angels, he's got 15 home runs and he's hit like 260.
Nothing special.
And he's grounded into 21 double plays. He has been a jag for the Angels. I happen to think that he's a lot better than he's played, and by the end of this contract, it'll be proven that he's still one of the best third basemen in baseball. But I guess in a long-winded way, Danny, quickly, my question is, does how these things have happened since they left? Like, there aren't that many guys that got away. I wanted to re-sign Ian Desmond. He did nothing after he left.
Yeah, they offered him,
People
and he took something else.
wanted to re-sign Jordan Zimmerman. His career fell apart. Harper's been fine. Rendon's been worse than that. Does that matter at all? Like, is that a win for the learners in some way?
These are data points at a minimum. They should absolutely be considered.
800-636-1067 is the number if you want to hop in on Grant and Danny. You are listening to The Fan. We will get your thoughts next on Trey Turner being packaged with Max Scherzer to the Dodgers. Plus, we're waiting to hear back what Washington Nationals executive Mike Rizzo was able to get back for Josh Harrison and for Yan Gomes. All coming up as we continue on The Fan.
Odyssey now has hundreds of new exclusive music stations for you to discover your new summer soundtrack.
Get moving with worthy workouts for a cardio sesh fueled by today's top artists.
Hanging with your crew? Throw it back with Picnic Party for old school jams for your cookout.
Or sail away with Odyssey's new yacht rock station, Jugger Yacht.
There are hundreds of new exclusive stations to check out today.
For summer barbecues.
Road trips.
Or relaxing poolside.
For every mood, every interest, every passion. By Odyssey. Brought to you in part by Macy's and Geico.
Not his own fault, just the actual anecdote. He says, quote, this is from 6 hours ago. The sense this morning is that moving Yan Gomes could be the last step for the Nationals, which they just did to the A's. Mm-hmm. He says, and Josh Harrison may very well stick around. Obviously, Harrison ended up being packaged with Gomes to Oakland. But he said, aside from being a favorite of Dave Martinez and Mike Rizzo, Harrison has fans in Washington's ownership group. When I read that, I was livid. Now, I had just woken up the morning after.
Yep.
You know, my entire house got torn apart and lit on fire and everything that I care about was broken. So you want Trey Turner, no problem. He can be moved. But some guy in ownership is going, that Josh Harrison.
I put my foot down.
Don't even think about Josh Harrison. Like, so we're looking at, tell me what you guys are interested in. Well, we're interested in a Scherzer. Like, okay, Max, no problem. Yeah.
Sure.
Trey Turner, even though he's under contract for next year.
Not a bridge too far for us. We
absolutely,
get it.
Yep. It makes sense.
Right.
Yan Gomes, you can have him for
yeah,
sure.
Right, starting catcher,
okay.
sure. Mm-hmm.
Josh Harrison.
Whoa!
No!
What?
What?
Get out!
And it's basically because, like, the ownership group likes that he messes with fans in left field.
He's 34.
The ownership group's like, they like how he high steps into second base.
He smiles when he hits sometimes. I'm all set.
I like Josh Harrison.
I'm pro Josh Harrison.
He's awesome. In
Good
fact, go back to the day they acquired him. We had him on our show, and I said, I love this guy. I loved him in Pittsburgh. He's my dude. He's one of my new favorite Nationals, and I still feel that way. If they actually were to have held on to this rental, who's in his mid-30s, during a full-on fire sale, when you can move him for anything to add to your terrible system, that would have been malpractice, and I would have been irate. So when I read that today, I was furious. The fact that he's been moved with Yan Gomes now makes everything okay. Imagine that, by the way.
Yes, I know.
Sure,
I was imagining it, by the way. I imagined it so
Trey
hard.
Turner, Gomes, Schwarber. Like, it doesn't matter. You're not bolted down.
A
You're
bunch
leaving.
of people that can help you. Again, this is going to come across as this show is anti-Josh Harrison. That's a winning player. That's a guy that's helpful. He should be on a competitive team. This is not one. This is quite literally, if you were to design a player that should be traded at the trade deadline, you might end up with Josh Harrison in your Madden creative player. 34 years old, can play multiple positions, great locker room guy, great team dude. Absolutely. That's awesome. Please trade this person. Please consider him more tradable than Trey Turner. Thank you.
So the return from I don't know why I coughed so much when I said that.
Yep.
The return from Oakland
Yep.
for the Nationals in the Gomes-Harrison deal. Drew Millis, who's a catcher. They, by the way, traded for 3 catchers.
Have they traded for any catchers?
3 catchers at this deadline. He's the only guy in the top 30 of the 3 players coming back in the A system. I would venture to guess, if not just 2, all 3 of these prospects will be in their top 30 because that's the difference between their system and the A system.
One's good, one's out.
Seth Schumann, who's had a really good year, and Richard Gosch, who apparently has the chance for a couple of above-average offerings. I have no file on Schumann or Gosch, but Millis is actually a catcher that some people think terrific defender, decent offensively, has a chance to be a big leaguer. But the A's best prospects, a guy named Tyler Stroderstrom, so they didn't need necessarily another catching prospect, so that made some sense. But we're asking you guys how you feel about everything going on. I think we're done. I'm a little bit afraid to come out from under my bed right now, but I think it's over. 8 veterans traded, 11 prospects coming back. The only solace I think Nats fans can take here, and the one thing I would say about this fire sale that should maybe excite you is not the right term. Should
comfort?
Comfort, yeah, that's a good one. Interest you, appeal to you. Mm-hmm. Normally, it's a bunch of teenagers who are 3-4 years away. The vast majority of these 11 guys will be in the big leagues in the next 2 months and early next season. I believe that you're going to have a start from JoJo Gray pitching to Keibert Ruiz in August at the major league level. It might be 3 days from now. Like, I think that's going to happen. It will definitely happen in September. But by and large, of these 11 guys, like 7 are double AAA big league types who are ready-ish and will be competing next year. You want my update on my poll here?
Update me, please.
How do you feel about the Nats' decision to trade Trey Turner? I want to know where you would have voted. So the 3 categories were the 3 poll options. I'm livid, 31%. I'm upset, but I get it, 52%. Where they did a smart thing, only 17%. But that does mean that basically 70% of people are fine with the trade or like it. And 30% are irate.
Upset, but I get it, is where I clicked the vote in real time, and it's where I'm at. I get it. Now I have a problem with the process that led us here. I don't like that we're here, but I acknowledge that we're here. You know what I mean? We got to this crossroads, Bone Thugs and Harmony, and we had to take a turn. I can't get mad that either turn was bad. The previous road and the couple hundred miles we went in the wrong direction, Harry and Lloyd style, when he missed the turnoff because he was pinching Harry's nose. Don't pinch Harry's nose. Follow the map. We didn't follow the map. We are in a bad spot. Something bad was going to happen. So this was the best out of that situation.
The Scherzer deal, the Turner deal to the Dodgers is complete. So that was not official until right now. Just went official. As if you needed any more confirmation. It's over. So when they actually file the paperwork and they say like Max Scherzer's time, Trey Turner's time in D.C. ended, it's July 30th, 2021 at 3:34 p.m. That's when the deal went down. We're 25 minutes from the deadline. I think it's okay now. I think you guys can come outside. I think the storm blew past. There's a bunch of chairs that have been uprooted. Like there's a table that broke. Your car got dented by some large object that flew by. But I think you guys are safe to come outside now. John's in Sterling on the Fan. What's up, John?
Hey, guys. How's it going? Good reporting and everything on everything that's been going on. So thanks so much. I think I definitely fall within that, somewhere between the 50-some percent and 17% of everything that's going on. Like, really bummed. But I don't know. I'm an analytics guy, but I think it would be safe to say that Turner and Rendon just had amazing chemistry together. Like, I know they made a joke about, hey, Turner's my favorite shortstop, Rendon's my favorite third baseman, but there was something to that. And I don't think either of them has played their best ball since Rendon left. I think Rendon, no matter what money you could have thrown at him, he wanted to go back west because that's where a lot of his family was over on that side of the country. And there was nothing really that the Lerners could do to get him to stay. And I think, I know people are frustrated that we didn't give him enough money, we didn't give the chance, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know if he would have. You know, we could have signed him to something like what we did, you know, some of the other guys, and he still probably would have wanted to go. And I think that gave him his chance to play the best ball that he could. But I don't think Turner's been his best since he doesn't have Rendon next to him as a diamond.
I would strongly disagree with that last point. Rendon hasn't been great. Trey Turner's last 150-some games, 30 homers, 33 stolen bases, 325 average, OPS in the mid-nines. He's been incredible, to be frank. He's had basically his career year over this last year and a half.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be flippant. I mean, it's just incorrect. I mean, the best baseball he's ever played has actually been since Rendon left. Now, if your point is that chemistry was significant to the two of them and they were happy and friends, I'm sure that's true. But Turner was amazing last season, and he's been just as good or better this season. And he's become, I would say, other than Fernando Tatis Jr., the best threat in well, maybe Acuna's in there too. The best threat to go 40-40 in this sport. I mean, with big-time stolen base propensity and power that is going to be 30-plus home runs if he airs it out and tries to hit bombs. Tim's in Annapolis on Grant and Danny. Tim, no more Scherzer, no more Turner, Schwarber, some of your favorites. 11 prospects are coming to town. What's up?
Oh, my God, they're all my favorites. You know, I feel like I just lost my favorite girlfriend, and I'm not getting sex for the next 2 years.
Well, you might. I mean, you know, they might win some games.
Well, you know, it took me a day or so to get my head around Scherzer, and after screwing up with Harper, and it's like, yeah, I definitely get that, but I want him to go to San Diego, not L.A., you know, and hopefully he disturbs the whole West and does his thing. But then Turner, when my kid texted me that Turner was involved, that was like smacked across the head.
Yep.
And now the whole package. Wow, what a fire sale.
I mean, you're talking about. I actually tweeted yesterday at noon or something, right around when I was sitting down to watch Max's final game. And I'm glad that we got one last Scherzer start, by the way.
And it was vintage. It was him.
But I tweeted, here's Rizzo's to-do list at the deadline. And then in parentheses, I said he's not going to trade all of these guys. He traded all of them.
Every one of them.
I listed 7 players. I didn't even list Turner because I didn't think he was being traded. But I listed Scherzer, Hudson, Schwarber, Hand, Gomes, Harrison. I said he's not going to trade all these guys, but here are the guys that he's going to try to trade. He traded all of them and Trey Turner. Even if you thought they were going to sell, this was bigger. This was more of a fire sale than anybody could have anticipated.
And let me say this real quick. This is what I've asked for in the past. So you can't be mad when you ask for this and it shows up. And here's what I mean. I killed them for a couple years ago when they didn't buy or sell. They did nothing at the deadline. If you're good enough to win, you buy. If you're not good enough to win, you sell. They did nothing. They just kept everybody. Then like Sean Kelly threw his glove. And then after a little while, they got mad because they think Brandon Kinsler talked to the Washington Post or something. And so they just sort of got rid of guys for $1.50, a ham sandwich, and an egg salad. If you're going to sell, actually sell. They did that. So while it's painful because these are heroes, these guys a lot of them are largely responsible for some of my top 5 sporting memories of my life. This was kind of what you're supposed to do here.
I want to get into why the farm system is bad. How we got here, that they had to replenish, even at the expense of one of their really good players, something that Andre asked us about a little bit ago. So we can do that next. There is a line open for you at 800-636-1067. Grant and Danny sorting through the aftermath and the wreckage of the largest fire sale in Nationals history. You're listening to your flagship home for Nationals baseball, 1067 The Fan.
Innovation, resilience, agility. It's how Michigan businesses work together and continue to build the future. Our expertise, talented workforce, and collaborative environment are making a difference now and shaping the future. Join us and make your mark where it matters. Visit michiganbusiness.org/radio to put your plans in motion. That's michiganbusiness.org/radio.
Eight players sent out by the Nats, including Max Scherzer, the greatest National of all time.
Damn.
Greatest Nats free agent signing ever, and Trey Turner, who, by the way...
The greatest trade ever.
They stole Trey Turner. Everyone was like, I don't care about prospects. He was just a prospect that they added before you fell in love with him. Juan Soto was the guy that they said, we're not trading before you fell in love with him. Bryce Harper was just a guy at Harrisburg at one point before you fell in love with him. That's how it works. They're not all going to be good, but that's generally how it starts. But why is their system terrible? That was a question someone asked. It's an interesting conversation. So first of all, I don't think the Dodgers are fair to compare them or anyone else being compared to them is fair because the Dodgers have their own budget. Nothing matters. They spend on whatever they want, and that goes for international scouting, amateur scouting, everything. Having said that, they're an example that you can win in the draft, even when drafting outside of the top 10 or 12.
They're almost playing a different game than everyone else.
Totally.
What they've done is remarkable. For the regular mortal teams, the Nats are the best of them.
Exception, not the rule, I would say, as far as the Dodgers.
That's the best way to put it.
But there are a lot of systems that don't spend like that, like the Rays that are good and still always have a good system.
Yep.
The fact is the Nats, as much as I respect and admire a lot of their scouting department and a lot of people in the organization, they haven't drafted well enough. First-round picks specifically, guys like Seth Romero and Mason Denneberg, it hasn't worked. You can't miss as often as they have in the first round. Now, it's a lot easier when you're drafting 6th Rendon, 1st Harper Strasburg, when you're drafting. But you found Giolito at 16 as an example. It can be done. They just drafted Brady House outside of the top 10. If that's a star who ends up being a 30-homer Major League bat, it's a huge difference than a Carter Kieboom, who's a first-round pick who right now looks like a bust. So that's number one. Number two, they have not developed as well as you'd like. And I think they've got a guy running their system, the director of player development, who's brilliant in Mark Shalaba, who we've dealt with and had on the air and done events with. He does a really good job. I think he's got a good staff. But the proof is just that right now, for whatever reason, with certain positions, catcher, whatever, it's been a struggle. They haven't been able to get those guys to the big leagues. Part of it, I think, is the groceries they're given. And then they got to go make meals. But everyone's got to now reassess and reevaluate and say it's not just that we've been competing. Because there are teams like Tampa Bay, Boston, nobody's system is as bad as theirs. You can have a system that's down because you win all the time. It should not get to the point that the Nationals has, which is just barren and kind of devoid of help before they drafted Cavalli and Henry.
It would have been let's say they don't make any trades where they give up pieces to help them in pennant races. It would be a middle-of-the-road system, right? It would have been okay if you still had the Nick Pavettas, the Jesus Luzardos, the Giolitos, the Dane Dunnings, you fill in your guys, right? It'd be fine. Once you remove those guys, what you're talking about, I think, kind of gets exposed, where enough times you're taking Seth Romero and Carter Kieboom, and it doesn't happen, and then we kind of go, well, wait a minute, you're not replenishing here.
And speaking of developing, right? Let's just look specifically. How different would this organization be if Victor Robles was really good like he was supposed to be, and Carter Kieboom was really good like he was supposed to be? Just those two guys.
Yep.
If Victor Robles was an outstanding center fielder and Carter Kieboom was a legit young stud third baseman, how different would everything look? Yesterday wouldn't have happened.
Incredibly different.
But I mean, honestly, it's I hate to boil it down to that, but these are margins. These are razor thin margins. Robles was on a trajectory to being a dude. Fell apart. He is now maybe not a major league starter next year. Maybe he's a defense and speed off the bench like center fielder for the Nationals. We'll see. Maybe they'll give him one more shot. But if just Robles and Kieboom hit, I don't mean with a bat, but like hit as prospects, it'd be nice if they hit it with a bat.
That'd be a huge part of them hitting you. Actually hitting a baseball.
Then everything is different.
Yes.
Then this team is a 90-win type team on paper that didn't just sell off everybody.
And to that point, you basically do this where you keep, I don't know how to say this, but you're looking for bullseyes, right? I keep using this dart analogy. You look for bullseyes. You throw 10, 11, 12 darts, you get those two guys eventually. That's what prospects are. You do that, and guys graduate, and guys force you to bring them up, and they thrive. Juan Soto forced their hand by being so excellent when he got. He said, "I ain't going back down. I wasn't part of the plan at all. I'm too good. I am never leaving. I'm not going to be hungry anymore. Thank you. I'm not going to point to a number on the board at McDonald's. I'll be hitting up here in the show, please and thank you." Sometimes guys force your hand in that way, but you need to keep throwing darts at the board, and they haven't hit, and the ones that could have hit, they had to trade away to supplement. The Major League roster to try to compete. It's kind of the perfect storm of going all in and then having nothing left.
The best way to improve your system is to do exactly what they've done. I'm capable of spinning two plates, and so the two conversations I think that need to be had, and we'll continue to have them as we're with you till 6:30 tonight, is number one, the haul that they got back, rebooting this minor league system and getting young major leaguers. You got 11 players back. This is going to help them a lot in 23, 24, 25, and it's going to help them some in 22 as well. But the other part of this is, how did we get here with Turner, where another superstar can't be retained? And everyone will say, well, he's 30. You shouldn't pay a 30-year-old that much money. I agree with you. Why are they paying him now? Why didn't they pay him 3 years ago so that he was 26 when the contract began? And then you can pay
have him through 32 or 33. Very different.
They have no precedent of doing that.
Yeah.
And I would like them to start doing that with non-Boris guys, because I think it's hard to do it with the Boris guys. Let's get to the Blitz next. The Wizards, by the way, traded Russell Westbrook yesterday.
Yeah, by the way.
Haven't even talked about that. And the Washington football team is at training camp. We'll get you those updates. Plus, Matt Wayrick on the 11-player haul coming back to Washington. If you guys are waiting, we're going to get to you. We promise. 800-636-1067. Playing therapist today a little bit for DC Sports. Grant and Danny on the Fan.
Odyssey now has hundreds of new exclusive music stations for you to discover your new summer soundtrack.
Get moving with worthy workouts for a cardio sesh fueled by today's top artists.
Hanging with your crew? Throw it back with Picnic Party for old school jams for your cookout.
Or sail away with Odyssey's new yacht rock station, Jugger Yacht.
There are hundreds of new exclusive stations to check out today.
For summer barbecues,
road trips,
or relaxing poolside.
For every mood, every interest, every passion. By Odyssey. Brought to you in part by Macy's and Geico.
Innovation, resilience, agility. It's how Michigan businesses continue to work together to make a difference now and shape the future. Join us and make your mark where it matters. Visit michiganbusiness.org/radio.